Welcome to the Why Blank Lost preview podcast for Big Brother 25. I'm David Bloomberg, and I'm very happy to have Big Brother 21's Ovi Kabir as my co-host here once again.
Hey, David, so happy to be back here. And when last year when we did this, I said after finished 3 months that loved it, great, but I need a break from you, David. But when I said that, I did not mean we would miss the whole summer. I think CBS listened to me for once, and they're like, all right, we're going to give you the whole year. So glad we're finally...
That's the one thing they listen to you about.
Yeah, the one thing, but better late than never. So happy to be here and cover this interesting cast we have here.
Yes. And we are, of course, here now, like a number of other people, to talk about the Big Brother 25 cast that was just released. We want to give everyone our first thoughts and also add on some things that you'll only get here, not at other podcasts, by discussing a bit how we think they'll do in terms of my rules for winning Big Brother, and even ranking them on, so we can compare later. At the end, we'll give you our winner predictions. And just in case you think there's no way to predict a winner from just this little small bit of information, Ovi, who was your prediction last season in our preseason podcast?
My prediction was the one and only Taylor Hale. And it did not look good week one. I will tell you, it did not look good week two, week three. And honestly, it did not look good for a lot of weeks. And we got it. But I will say, actually, David wasn't too far off either, because who was your winner pick?
I had picked Brittany.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that, she did very well. I think that she would have had a difficult time winning in many situations by the time it got to the end, but she did very well.
But true, we didn't expect it. As the weeks went by, me and David were looking, we're like, we're dead in the water.
But,
time to repeat it. Hopefully we can get the winner pick today.
That's right. I did predict Jam Jam as the Survivor 44 winner. So I'm on a roll also.
You are on a roll.
Now,
okay.
There's a lot more information that we get from Survivor people than we got for the Big Brother people. So, that allowed me to be like, I will analyze the way he's thinking and talking. And here we get like, hi, I'm so-and-so. And, that's about it.
I don't know what you mean. I feel like the age, hometown, and occupation, right? All the information we're given by CBS, the utmost information.
And
it's right there.
And how much they love Julie Chen. But we'll talk about that later. Yeah. Now, in case anyone is, listening or watching here, you're not familiar with us. Once the season starts and the first person is voted out, we will be right back here each week to discuss what happened and how they did overall in terms of my rules for winning that I originally wrote way back in 2004 and have modified over the years. Now, the most recent version that's currently posted is a few years old. It's at robhasawebsite.com/BigBrotherRules. I'm going to try and get that updated soon. There isn't much that will change, mostly some new examples. Like I binged a couple of seasons, after Survivor and before now, and that brought, recollection of some examples I can add. But in general, I'm not changing rules or moving them around. And then for the podcast, we should be here each weekend. We'll record before the weekend, and we'll usually be here by Saturday mornings, at least until Survivor starts, and then we might have to push back a day. Because I will be pulling double duty. So thanks again, CBS. Of course, I'm pulling double duty. And you've got Rob and Taryn and some of the others pulling quintuple duty. So now for this preview, before we talk about how we think each player will do in terms of the rules, we should go over the basics of the rules. So if you're familiar with my Survivor rules, they're similar, but not exactly the same. There are some things that change. The first few rules are similar. For example, rule 1, most important rule, scheme and plot. Seems pretty clear, and I think most of the players this season talked about that they know they need to do that. The second rule, which is often more difficult, is don't scheme and plot too much, keep your scheming secret, and don't backstab until you absolutely need to. That's harder for a lot of Big Brother players. They get rolling, and they, just as much as on Survivor, Jeff Probst encourages big moves. Even without Jeff saying it, the Big Brother people feel they need it, and they're out there doing it in the first or second week. And I remember, and I'm trying to remember who it was, or I watched Big Brother 14 and Big Brother 17, and now I'm blanking on the name of the guy who said it. It was the guy who was kind of in the Showmance with the twin. Austin, thank you.
Yeah.
And he even said, I mean, he had other, strategic problems later, but there was someone who came to him and said, we need to make this big move right now. And he's like, it's it's like week 3. Nobody cares if you make a big move right now. So he had that right.
Mm-hmm.
The third rule is to be flexible. And the key here is you cannot simply tie yourself to one alliance and hope that it survives. You have to make side alliances and sub alliances and everything else. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going with this, and then hope for the best. It doesn't work. The fourth rule, don't let your emotions control you. This works in both ways, in the good way and the bad way. The good way, don't become such close friends with people that you won't vote them out. And the bad way, which we saw a lot of last season, which is don't get so angry with people that it interferes with your strategy. Not to mention that you come off like a total jerk.
Yeah, we saw that a lot last season. Unfortunately, and some haven't learned their lesson yet. So it's a ongoing thing, and if anything, that is a rule we have covered extensively, and I hopefully this one we won't have to cover as much this season.
Yeah. Related to that, as you said, some of them still haven't learned it, is Rule 5, which is pretend to be nice, and play the social game. Now, there's a whole bunch of subcategories more for Big Brother than there are in Survivor. Act like an adult. Don't drink too much. Now, admittedly, Big Brother has cut back on the alcohol, but they still give some. Don't be lazy or show your bad habits. And then keep your politics and controversial beliefs to yourself. Which will be particularly interesting since one of our players is a political consultant. But it's difficult. It can be difficult sometimes. The sixth rule is don't be too much of a threat. We heard a number of the players in their very, very brief interviews talking about how they want to follow this rule basically and, avoid those situations. And then the seventh rule, trust almost nobody. And within that, there's a famous line, you can bounce checks in the Big Brother house. And so anyone who thinks, oh, well, they promised me, no. And especially if it's, well, they promised me I'd be safe while we were hanging on the wall and then I jumped down. No, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. And then after the rules, there's Appendix A, which is the jury phase. And that talks about how to deal with jury management and then what to do when you get to the end. And obviously, we'll talk about that more once we, get to that point in the season. Now, these are similar to the Survivor rules, and those rules come in a shorter and much more colorful version in poster form. You can see a part of it behind me. You can also see the full thing right there. And my ring light in the reflection. And you can go to robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed, scroll down to the poster, click on it. They also come in t-shirt form, which there's the poster on a t-shirt, and then there's the version that I'm wearing, which is the checklist. Unfortunately, we don't have Big Brother versions you can hang or wear, at least not yet. So if you want one, let me know. We'll see if we can get a demand going for it.
Yes.
Anything. Yeah. So with that, we can move into our players, I think.
Ooh, exciting. I'll jump in really quickly just to say, David, the thing I love about this podcast and why I was so excited to come back on with David is that I feel like what makes it unique is that we break down the game strategy of it. These rules that David has put together for Why Blank Lost really kind of capsulize what makes Big Brother in these social games. So we'll be, of course, talking about certain things that go on the week, but our main goal is essentially to break down week in and week out how each player does and how that relates to the rules. So something I think we're going to do a little differently today with the cast is instead of just talk about our first thoughts on them, we're going to talk about and rate them of how we think they're going to do in regards to Why Blank Lost rules.
Yes. And thank you. All right. To make things easier, since we know that, you know what we look like, you probably don't necessarily know what the Big Brother players look like as much. So we'll put their faces up there for you and their basic facts. And we start with America. Or as Julie will probably introduce her, God bless America.
Mm-hmm.
So she is 27 from Texas, now in Brooklyn. Those are all the basic facts. Some things we found from her short video interviews is she's a longtime fan. She's one of those people I was talking about that wants to, avoid being a threat early because she knows that that's a good strategy to stay low on the radar early. But she plans to play and lie and do whatever it takes, including hiding the fact that she has an Ivy League degree, which, I mean, I don't think it's a big deal because her job doesn't seem to be at all related to that degree, at least as far as I can tell. And the only thing I worry about is, okay, you're hiding your degree, which means you're hiding the college you went to. So when those questions inevitably come up about, oh, what'd you do at college? Are you going to slip?
Exactly. I feel like contestants, when they come into the house, they always want to have, they feel like a spy and they want to have a lie they can keep. The idea is, though, as you realize, especially on a game where it's 100 days long, the less lies you have to keep up is better for your own game because you will slip eventually. And then it unravels so much more. And you want to be able to authentically talk about the stories you have. So the thing that's interesting about America is that she's from Texas. So I wonder, she has that Southern upbringing, might relate to people there, but she's lived in Brooklyn, New York, which I think will come to play a little bit more because we're going to see a few people because Big Brother loves casting people from the East Coast. And there's that East Coast mentality and vibe. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with her.
Yeah, someone did a chart of like where each player was from, and there were only of the 16 players, I think there were only like 8 states, represented. And it's like, okay, don't bother looking, in the middle of America or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, all right, we can move on to the next person who is Blue. And I'm not just describing her shirt. That's her name. And, but I was a little blue listening to her.
Well, David, sorry, really quickly. Do we want to talk about rating America in regards to the
I'm
rules?
sorry. You're right.
No, you're totally fine.
I actually forgot to put a rating for America in my notes. So I think I'm going to give her a 6 out of 10. Okay. Now I am a harsh grader. So
and 10 means closest to your rules, correct? And 1 means
10 means like virtually perfect.
That's our scale right there. Okay, a 6. I feel like America is going to play a under the radar game, hopefully in the beginning. They understand the importance of information. And so the question will be is how much they can give. So I'm hoping they won't want to do crazy big moves. They're going to scheme and plot, be flexible. So I'm going to put them I'm going to be generous and give a 7 for America.
Okay. So now moving on to Blue. Thank you. I was immediately put off by the way she was talking. She just seemed a little high on herself. Now, it's quite possible that she was just uncomfortable in this weird situation of talking to the camera. Like she, at one point she didn't seem to know what to do with her hands. Like she was in between questions. And it also seems like she's an alternate. because her video was
Mm,
filmed somewhere besides where everybody else's were.
that's a good note. Okay.
So that may have thrown her off as well. But the other thing that got me was she is a brand strategist, but she won't tell people. She's going to lie about her job because her job has the name strategist in it.
I think it's just so funny because both my partner and I, we work in this arena. We live in there with brands. That's kind of our marketing PR. The idea that I think somebody's going to look at you as a strategist because you work with brand strategy, and there's so many words. Brand consultant. You can talk about you work in marketing. So I hope that she does stay true and is able to talk about her job because from its core, she's, from what I understand, creative. So it's going to be very difficult to navigate the house if she's consistently lying and saying she does. She was an ice cream scooper,
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Love that.
Right.
That was about, I worked that in school, but it's just not going to work. So, yeah.
I talked to my younger son who's in a similar line of work as you right now, and yeah, he was like, yeah, she could just say she's a brand manager. The word strategist isn't magical, and he even said any kind of brand strategy won't have any bearing on
No.
Big Brother strategy. So for her to be thinking that way, it throws me off. Now, I will say, online, from what I have seen already, there's a lot of blue stands out there. So I'm probably getting on the wrong side of the blue stands from the beginning. But I'm just looking at, what I'm seeing here, and I don't get it. As a matter of fact, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving her a 4.
A 4. Okay. Well, I don't want this to be the thing where I continually agree with David because we are going to have some disagreements. I already know going down the line. But I was hoping this would be my unpopular opinion. I am not as high on Blue as others are as well. I worry that they might come off a little overconfident and they want to make a big move early on. I feel like they're going to be in a good place first 2-3 weeks and can, be able to scheme and plot. But my concern is that rule number 2, they might be scheming and plotting and backstabbing people just to do it, which we see a lot of people do in the Big Brother house when they get bored. So because of that, I think I'm going to give, even though it could be a volatile game, it could a 3 to Blue.
Okay. All right. Lower than me.
I know.
All right. We will move to Bowie Jane. Now, she is 45, but, she's 45 and she's a lawyer, but she's saying she's 34 and a DJ. Now, the good part is she's also a DJ. And I said lawyer, she said barrister, because she's Australian. But, the 34, I mean, yeah, I think she could pull it off. I don't know that it matters a whole heck of a lot. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. But it's just more lies that don't really need to be told.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lie that cuts out a big chunk, 25% of your life, So when you break it down, you talk about the stories in your life and say, oh, I did my 30s or in my 40s, like you're cutting out a lot of chunk of the stories that an experience probably that happened in your life the last 10, years. So you got to be really careful with that because again, it might work for the first week or 2, but after week 3, 4, when you're in a month in, you have 3 months to go in this game. It might become difficult with these lies, but who knows? Everyone's lying on this cast, so maybe they'll all blow up, come back together, and say, "Okay, here's the truth."
Here's our reintroduction. Yeah, I mean the thing is, she has that lie, that time frame is when she moved to the U.S. So now she's going to have to cut out not just the most recent chunk, but a chunk of when she was in Australia. Her time and. So I don't know. She originally got into Big Brother in Australia. She acknowledged the difference between Australian and US Big Brother. And apparently she had said, I didn't catch this, but Taryn had mentioned that she's watched US Big Brother for about 8 years. So that's good. Honestly, I'm putting her at about the same spot as Blue. I'm giving her a 4.
Interesting. I think I'm really I'm a little higher on Bowie because
Mhm.
there's just a interesting affection I feel Americans have for Australians and love accents of that such.
Mhm.
And I feel like with living in LA as well as having an occupation as being a DJ, I feel like they're really going to be if they're able to tone it in a fun personality in the house. So because of that, I'm thinking initial stages people will want to work with Bowie, but I also see Bowie as somebody who probably will try not to jump the gun and do something kind of, I don't want to use the word crazy, but something
Mhm.
that you wouldn't want to happen in the first 3 weeks or so. So because of that, I'm giving Bowie a 6. I feel like they'll
Okay.
stick to the rules. We'll see where it goes.
Okay. I just don't see her as much of a schemer. So that was part of what
Okay.
came into it for me. All right. Whoops, wrong way. We can move to Cameron. So Cameron's a 34-year-old stay-at-home dad. He is a huge super fan who has, applied, auditioned multiple times. And he knows you don't want to win too much too soon, but you also don't want to lie too low. You got to play the middle. He's going to hold back on his super fandom while acknowledging that he's a fan. So he's going to try and kind of balance it like Ian did. Um, and so it was interesting because one thing he said was, I'm not sure why people worry about you if you say you're a super fan, but they do. But the thing is, then he started talking about like Ian, who was a super fan, who won. So anytime someone wins, that's going to automatically
Mhm.
put them, put that type of person on the radar. Um, so, so what do you think of Cameron?
Yeah, no, I like Cameron's story, and I'm excited to see a little bit more of him. I
Mm-hmm.
think one thing that really helps actually a lot of contestants coming into the house is having some sort of family unit to back on. One, just for emotional support when they're, it gets stressful in there, but also to talk about them. I think it finds
Mm-hmm.
other people endearing if he talks about his child, his partner. And I think, yes, while they're a super fan, I'm hoping they can still make sure they push out the social aspect first and then the strategy behind that. So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit higher on Cameron. I don't know how high you are on, but I do like Cameron. Also being from Georgia there, he's been around a few states because sometimes people geographically, if they're so far away from different parts of it,
Mm-hmm.
I worry about how they can connect with others. But luckily, there's some other people in the South, a few Florida people, few Texas ones, so you won't just have that Northeast vibe. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping Cameron will know how to take the initiative quickly. And my rating for him, I'll give the first one, it's going to be a bit high. I'm going to give Cameron an 8.
Me too. Me
Oh
too.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
We did
all
not
right.
plan this. We didn't talk about our ratings
No,
beforehand. I just want
no.
we said we're not going to talk about it until we go on this.
All right. Well, next we can move on to Corey. Now, Corey, of course, is Zach Wurtenberger's younger brother. Zach was on Survivor 42. Uh, Zach is hilarious on Twitter and other places. Um, and I'm sure that runs in the family. So I expect, I mean, just looking at Corey in his interviews, um, Sharon said in her podcast introducing it, called him self-aware, and that was the term that I was looking for also, because like he was making fun of himself during the thing. How can you not expect this guy to win? I have this face, this body, sky high IQ, and just going through it. And he is a super fan. His brother Zach tweeted that it was his own childhood dream to be on Survivor and Corey's to be on Big Brother, and lo and behold, here we are. And Corey also knows you can't just lay low at the beginning necessarily. He wants to try to win the first HOH, but if not, then he's going to play up being young and needing help in order to reduce his threat level. So, I don't know, what are your thoughts there?
Man, I am really actually conflicted on Corey because I actually really do like Corey. And if many ways, in many ways, I relate to Corey a lot because we were similar ages of when I was on the show. So if there's any type of DMs I always get or ask, it's usually college students asking how should I present myself for casting, et cetera, because I was in college, basically same age as Corey when I applied and I just finished college. Like I was a week out from graduation when I was on the show.
And then they
So
immediately sent you to camp on the show.
yeah, they sent me to camp. It was great, wonderful time back in there. So I love the humor. I love the self-awareness. My only concern is just it's the life experience, and that's something you couldn't have told me too when I went on the thing. I felt, even though I felt aware at the time, probably naive in many ways, there was just certain things that were I found difficult. So hopefully Corey can manage it way better than me. I'm really hoping for that. My concern will be, I think it's a good strategy actually to try to win the first HOH. I think that's kind of the meta of the game now. Get control of there. My worry would be of his backup plan where he tries to rely on his youth and tries to get under somebody's wing, because I feel like somebody might see that as an easy person to put on the block initially. So that's my only concern. Otherwise, though, I think Corey is going to stick to the rules. So I'm still mid-ground with him.
Yeah. In terms of the rules, which is how we're rating people,
Yeah.
I'm giving him an 8 for that also.
Okay. I'm giving Corey, I'm going to put a 6 for Corey. Okay. I like him. I think he's good. I'm just worried about that backup plan.
Yeah. I have to admit I'm worried about the backup plan too, but I just, I still think he'll stick to it. But we just, for that family, he can't be the first one out.
No, I'm fingers crossed. I don't want him to join my group of young men going out pre-jury. Corey can hopefully. I hope he wins the first HOH. I think that'd be fun. Anyways.
All right. Next up, we go from the youngest to the eldest, and that is Felicia. As a matter of fact, she is the oldest woman to play Big Brother ever. I think second oldest cast member ever. But she says she connects easily with younger people. We'll see. I've seen lots of people say that on Survivor. And when they say connect, they mean boss around like they're your children. Now, Felicia doesn't seem like that type to me, but sometimes that's the way it still ends up coming off. But she thinks, she'll be fine at her age. I'm happy to see more older contestants. Certainly this whole group skews older than most. And I didn't see a lot of scheming and plotting and strategy in what she talked about.
Yeah, it's tough because we weren't given much on Felicia,
right?
And I wish I had a little bit more to do there to kind of find out what their strategy is. Which I do love seeing the age diversity we have on this cast, and kudos to Felicia. I'm hoping they can find more success than we've had some of our older castmates in the past. There, one thing I hate, I don't like putting people in boxes and saying this is a strategy I feel like you have to use for your archetype or etc. But I do think we've seen in the past, whether it's Big Brother or Survivor, that older contestants who play up some sort of parental bond with another contestant do well. So if Felicia talks about maybe going in there and trying to be motherly to certain contestants, create that bond, I think we saw that really reflected, and not at the same age by any means, but Tiffany on Big Brother 23 really had a concerted effort to have that mom bond with some contestants on there who felt they could trust her very much. So I feel like Felicia could manage that if that is their strategy. But if they're banking on being able to socially bond with the contestants, that on all of them, the younger ones and everything like that, without utilizing some parental bond, I worry about that. So I'm putting Felicia at a 5.
Okay. The other problem with the parental bond is when it comes to the end, if you've pretended to be a parent to people and then you backstab them and vote them out, that is usually, at least on Survivor, we have seen many, many times that is not taken well by the jury. So we'll see. Because I did not just see much strategy and other things in there, I gave her a 3.
Okay.
All right. Moving on up, we have Haisam. He's 45, which is older for your typical Big Brother contestant. And he's listed as a geriatric physician, but then talked about in the brief part we got being a psychiatrist. Now, a psychiatrist is, of course, a physician. I don't know if it was a mess up by the Big Brother people, because we know they would never mess anything up.
No, of course not.
Just because I think, Hamster Watch has a goof tally, that goes. So, but, one way or another, whether he's a geriatric physician or a psychiatrist, he's used to dealing with the older people. And he said that, made him think about how you just have to live your life and, one day at a time. And, but as far as the game, he was very, very specific. He wants a smart strategist. He wants to partner with a smart strategist who can keep their emotions in check, to be his ride or die, maneuver between two factions and sway the votes and not let either side become too powerful. That is just so specific that, we'll talk about someone later who says, oh, my strategy is to make up my strategy on the fly. No, that's not a strategy. This kind of goes the opposite way of being a little too much. It's good to have an idea, and by all means shoot for it, but I hope that he also has flexibility in there.
Yeah, here's the thing is I am unsure how high Sam's going to be as a player, as strategy wise, but I have a very good feeling they're going to be very entertaining. I'm very excited to see them play, and it tracks. I feel like being 45, being a physician, they're going to come in there with a plan, and so they laid out a very specific plan. And so it kind of comes back to one of the rules: your flexibility. How will they be able to pivot? But I would rather them go into the house with a plan than not a plan. Now the question is he the type of person who can kind of pivot from group to group? I don't really foresee that, unless they're going to do a lot of lying. Just from his stature, his age, to where he carries himself, I imagine people will see him as an instant leader of a group. So I don't feel like he's the person who can play like a side to side, back to back, maybe like I'm trying to think of a good example, maybe like a Turner role where somebody goes back and forth a little, plays in the middle.
I did not foresee him being compared to Turner
in that way, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't mean that. I think it's a very good position you can play if you can play that. But I just see him as kind of a quick leader they're going to see, or they're going to at least point it out. And I don't think he's going to shy away from taking a leader position. So because of that, I worry about him, but I'm going to give him a 4.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In regards to the rules.
I was originally giving him a 6, but the more I thought about it and the more you talked about it, I dropped him to a 5.
5, okay.
Still not a 4, but I think the more I talked myself into a lower rating for it.
I think it could work. See, that's the thing. I feel like it could be a great explosion that goes wonderful, or it could go completely wrong. And I think what it's going to hinge on is his flexibility. So we know he knows the rules of what to do, but does he only know what to do with those specific rules?
Right. All right. Next up, we have Izzy. So Izzy is 32. She is a flutist. And she considers herself a huge fan, even though she only started watching in January of this year. And she said she watched every season twice. Now, that's technically possible. I feel like I need a disclaimer. This was a professional. Do not attempt at home. I just think it's mentally inadvisable. I mentioned I binged 2 Big Brother seasons over the summer here, and it really dragged me down. I mean, after that, I wanted to binge a third one and I couldn't. I switched to Survivor and I did some other things. I just couldn't do any more of that. I can't imagine watching 24 or arguably 23. There's no real reason to watch Big Brother 1. I guess there's no real reason to watch a number of seasons, but 23 seasons twice, that's a lot.
David, I think the lying, they said they're going to start in the house. I think it's been starting already. Is he? There's. I just as dedicated as you are, in within 1 year, within January this year, if you're gonna rewatch, Big Brother's the worst show to rewatch back to back. It really is because it's so condensed. You 3 episodes per week, and you're gonna rewatch it. You already know it's. Maybe if you watched every Thursday eviction, maybe that's a way. But and I would just be surprised there's certain seasons you'd want to rewatch. So with that being said, if they did,
maybe she watched it. Now I know I don't have this set up for the things I watch on like Paramount Plus, but there are certain things I could watch. If I'm watching on my computer, I can increase the speed. And I really wished when I was doing my Big Brother binge that I could do that for Paramount Plus on my TV. Because there were some parts that I was just like, ugh. I mean, I figured out that just by skipping the previously on Big Brother and the titles, I saved like an hour, from the entire binge, just from that. So imagine being able to, multiple times as fast go through it on, the comps and some of the other things.
Yes, but that's neither here or there. What are your thoughts outside of their binging of the show?
I don't really know. I don't know what to expect from someone who comes in with so much of that crammed in there. I it could truly go either way. So I just ranked her right in the middle with a 5.
That's valid. I think two things that came to mind. I talked about this beginning is regional similarities, right? So Izzy is from New York. We had a few other contestants already from New York. It's already getting very Northeast heavy. So hopefully that being a way to bond. I'm really not sure what to say about being a professional flutist. I'm not saying that's bad. I wonder that's probably a very demanding job. I just don't know in what capacity, whether they give lessons to people or they're in an orchestra with that. So that would, if we know, but
I don't know if it can be that demanding if you can watch that many seasons of Big Brother.
What I was about to say, that if you're able to, I just don't know really many people. I don't even know my unemployed friends who are able to watch back to back. I don't think there's enough hours even for them. So I would be surprised. So Izzy, I'm not sure. I'm worried. Here's what I'm truly worried is that if they truly did watch all these episodes back to back to back, they're so crammed in their head, and it's going to be very difficult for them to actually play the game in real time versus sit back and think. And especially that first week, you need to be on it. I'm worried about Izzy potentially being on the block first week. So because of that, I'm giving them a 4.
Okay.
And keep in mind, these rankings are about not of them as a player, but how close we believe they're going to follow to the rules from 1 to 10, just as a reminder.
Right. All right. We can move on to Jag, who is the first Sikh on Big Brother. He is a huge fan. He considers himself very competitive. He specifically talked about how it's a game and everyone should know it's a game. So he will get blood on his hands. He will lie. He will backstab. All the things that I want to hear. He said he'll be loyal to those closest to him. But he, anybody else is fair game. Now, all that's good. The next part, I was like, I don't know. He said he was going to pretend he's an airhead, but he will be a secret genius. Now, I don't mean to typecast, but usually airheads look more like the beach lifeguard types, They don't, I don't know. I don't see him playing the airhead role.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to play that role for a number of reasons, but more than anything, too, is from his occupation, he's a truck company owner at 25. I think anybody who understands logistics and like the trucking business at all, but you can't be a true airhead if you're a truck company owner.
He's going to lie about that. He's not going to tell people that he's an entrepreneur, but he's going to tell people he's a substitute teacher and a Special Olympics coach. But even those things, those don't scream airhead to me.
Those don't, and I think people are like vastly overestimating their ability to lie about their
Yeah.
work wise, because when they realize, because here's the issue, here's the true thing is,
Mhm.
you want to bond with people, and so when you make a lie, there's very limited things you can bond on things. So people who have a background in something that you have, you could be able to, but then if you can't talk about it anymore because you lied about it. So you won't be able
Right.
to talk about your work, things like that. And the other thing I want to talk about is his hometown. This is my only concern, is that Omak, Washington, very, very far from our East Coast folks, our Southern folks. There's not, from my understanding, many people other than LA, West Coast wise. But when
Well,
I'm
I
looking
think
into,
was he the one who said that they have a total of 3 stoplights in town?
yes, so I think it was this very small, and I understand I came from a one stoplight city. So my concern is that because of that regional difference, it's going to be very difficult to connect with some of these house guests,
Mhm.
especially if Jag is lying. Otherwise, I really want Jack to go far.
Yeah.
I like that type of player who wants to play.
Yeah. Me too, and maybe that colored my rating of him because I gave him a 7.
Wow. Okay. My rating for Jag, unfortunately, even though I feel like I'm being higher than I probably should, I'm giving Jag a 5
Mm,
currently because I
okay.
am concerned
Yeah.
through the lies that he's not going to be able to follow the rules. He's going to be worrying about what to say.
Okay. Okay. All right. Next up is someone that there were a lot of people very excited about as soon as the hints started dropping, and that is Jared Fields. The last name is the most important for the reason they were excited. Sorry, Jared, because he, of course, is the son of Survivor legend Suri Fields. I should say Survivor and the Traders legend Suri Fields. Um, I met Jared very briefly once at an RHAP event. Um, you know, uh, but that's about all I have to say about that. I met him. We were at a bar, and uh, he does not consider himself quite a super fan, but a big fan. His plan is to be fluid. Don't make his presence known until it's needed. Don't have a showmance. Don't win too many challenges. Just don't do anything to stand out. Certainly, don't tell anyone who his mom is. I do wonder if Corey will figure it out. The information that's already been trickling out about, from Zach about what Corey knows about Survivor, he could easily put 2 and 2 together. I think Corey is smart enough to realize it. I hope that he will use that as an advantage to form an alliance together. I would hate it would tear the Survivor community apart to have them going against each other right off the bat.
Well, here's what I'll say first. I've met Jared on, like, fortunately, as David mentioned, a good amount of times actually recently, since moving to New York, and so I've really enjoyed Jared's company before. So I'm a little biased on this one. But with that being said, is that I don't think actually what you mentioned, Corey will realize Jared is who they are unless there's an additional they've met in person in any shape or form. The reason why I say that is because, one, I think Corey would be very wary to give out the knowledge that he's actually a super fan, because he kind of talked about not wanting to share that. And two, he probably just doesn't want to assume Jared is somebody who he may not, and that might come across in the worst way. So I think the risk versus reward, if Corey even thinks anything, he's probably going to sit back a little bit. But talking about Jared regarding this one, I thought it was interesting. They talk about his occupation being exterminator, but I know from them, Jared makes a lot of music, so that's kind of his passion. So I'm hoping that because of his familiarity Northeast, making music, he's a young guy, he can connect with the others. But I might be putting a little bit more weight too, with his mother being who she is, that she hopefully game planned a good amount, and kind of, I guess we'll see if whether it's genetic or how it happens. So,
the thing about her, though, if you look at her and you look at him, even if they had the same identical brain, he stands out a lot more of a certain type of threat in Big Brother than she does.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing. He's going to have to take whatever knowledge he has gained from her and modify it for his own strategy. I do think he can do it. Um, it'll be interesting to see. I call it the same bias I had talked about, but I gave him a 7. I went
Mm.
higher than I might have if he were not a Fields.
I actually that's where I have him at too, a 7, because I do think Jared knows enough about the game and from his connections that understands the initial stages to
Mm-hmm.
how you need to play a lay low game, especially with his mother playing the game she had. Like you mentioned, though, he's going to have to play differently because immediately you see Jared, you notice him, he's going to have some form of, oh, this person could be good and capable at certain things
Mm-hmm.
here. So we'll have to wait and see, but I think we match on this one. 7's on the board.
Okay. Next up is Kirsten. She is a molecular biologist, but she is hiding that and saying she is a swimsuit designer, which is very, very different than being a molecular biologist. She watched Big Brother as a kid, but then didn't, and she really didn't talk about it beyond that. And she also said her plan is to align with the strong people early and then steamroll, which is a decent plan when it comes to Big Brother. Although nowadays I feel like there's a counter to that, but I do I do think it's valid. I'm just not sure about the rest of her planning. I mean, we've talked about the lying before. Hers is perhaps the biggest job lie that we have.
Yeah, I agree. What I'm hopeful for though with Kirsten, she's pretty young, 25. So I sometimes I'm not saying she isn't. I imagine her occupation actually is a molecular biologist, but I wouldn't be surprised if CBS tries to, put a title somewhere in there. She's probably a few years removed from college, so she's probably in more of the starting career versus her end there. So she is still, I feel like, probably familiar with her college years. Before then she can still relate to maybe being a swimsuit designer. Maybe that's something she did on the side too. So I'm hoping that they can continue to keep that up. I like the strategy. I mean, as boring as it is for us viewers to watch a steamroll happen, it's a smart strategy. I feel like if she understands who she needs to align with, she doesn't immediately strike me as a first nominee. So if she can play her cool, play smart, and she sticks to that strategy and just find who the HOH is, sticks to them, meaning if she isn't the HOH, she could be. I feel pretty good about her. So because of that, I'm actually giving her a 7 because I don't think she's going to make any big moves immediately. She has a strategy going on. She's scheming, but not scheming too hard. I could be completely wrong and let it blow up in my face, but I'm a little higher on Kirsten.
Yeah, you're a lot higher. I gave her a 3.
Oh,
I didn't see strategist
really?
in her.
Interesting.
I mean, she's obviously very smart. I mean, you don't get to become a molecular biologist by, not being smart. So I just don't know that she's game smart and game savvy.
I love our first big little
Yeah.
separation right there. That's good.
So we will see. Next up is Luke.
They did him dirty.
Well, I think he did himself dirty, but his strategy is to be a himbo with cunning and planning behind it, because this is a game of deceit. Okay. Remember I said earlier about the airhead and all that? This is the type of person I was talking about. He could probably pull off the airhead. Thing is, I'm not convinced that it's all an act. I am happy that he said, this is a game of deceit and all of that. But then he said he is hiding something very important: his astrological sign. Okay. Of all the things we've discussed, that wins the prize for the most ridiculous thing to hide and lie about. I mean, it's just, come on. Really? I mean, I'm sorry. That's just ridiculous. And to me, without a whole lot of other information, that indicates a lot to me.
Wow, you know what? This is, I feel like, and I could be completely missing the thing. I feel like Luke is going to be playing a character a lot, and he's going to be one of those people who's either going to burn out really quickly, or we're going to find him sticking around for a very long time. Because I think if there's anybody starting a boys' alliance, it's Luke. I think he's putting together the alliance. If he looks like he is, capable of winning an endurance competition, so we know that first competition, HOH competition, kind of relies on that. Unless there's a big, they might do some weird twist, camp director, etc. Who knows? Um, I don't think. Here's the thing: is with Luke, I don't think he's going to have an issue of speaking up first. People in the beginning stages will not want to put attention to themselves. I feel like Luke is going to be the type who's like, make me the person. I don't mind it. This again could play really badly to his favor or really well because he can get power quickly. Regardless, I do see Luke flaming out, but I think it's going to be a fun ride. Because of that, I don't think he's listening to any rules that we have, but I think he's going to be an enigma and stick around for a while. I'm giving Luke a 2 regarding the result, the rules, but I think we're going to have to create new ones for him.
Well, I don't think we'll have to create new ones because I also gave him a 2. I mean, there was some. Rob and Taryn seemed to be thinking that maybe he was really just being a comedian and this was all a joke. If he is, okay, fine. You fooled me. He seemed, well, as serious as he gets, I guess. So we'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a stock watch person. People are going to, they might invest into this one.
Yeah. All right. Next up is Matt, who is the first hard of hearing contestant that Big Brother has ever had. He said he's a decent fan and has watched a couple seasons. Yeah, a couple seasons and a decent fan. They don't necessarily go together. But he does think that he is smart enough to know that the main focus will be winning the first HOH to get early alliances, but then hold back on further comps. So I don't know if he got that from just watching a couple seasons, or he talked to some people and got some advice, because that's pretty darn good advice.
It is. It is. I could see Matt close. We already know they're athletic. There's a good chance they might be able to do very well in that HOH competition. And we have seen in the beginning how you don't want to take a shot at somebody who's going to do well at the competition. And otherwise, many of these males, women, they come together of the people who did well in the first HOH.
Right.
So good strategy in there. I hate people, always trying to say this person looks like this one, so they're going to be, like this, etc. This vibe. But I can't not say the Tyler Crispin vibes we see from Matt. I think it's impossible not to see it. So if Matt's social game is anywhere close to Tyler's, I think we're going to see him for a while. Regarding the rules, it's hard to tell because, like you said, he didn't say he was a big fan, but he spouted out probably what I would say is a great way of the rule. So because of this, I'm giving Matt a 6.
Okay. Well, you're higher than I am. I gave him a 4 just because I mean, he might have just gotten that one piece of advice for all we know. I don't know. One other thing that could be useful, of course, is he can read lips. Now, that can be helpful if you're trying to spy on other alliances. But the downside, obviously, of being hard of hearing is there's a lot of whispering in the house. And as you know, the walls are thin. I believe Cliff found that out when he was doing his daily podcasts from in there, and so that's something Matt's going to have to, watch out for, obviously.
Exactly. One thing I'm interested in, though, because you mentioned it too, one of the lies Jag is going to say was he was a Special Olympics instructor or some sort of something in that regard.
Right.
So I wonder if maybe through his lie there might be some sort of bonding that occurs here.
Yeah, I don't know how much connection there is between the Special Olympics and the Deaf Olympics.
Yeah.
I had an employee who I believe played in the Deaf Olympics.
Okay.
I believe he played volleyball a number of years ago. And I'm pretty sure that was I know it was deafness related. I believe it was the Deaf Olympics. And so it's its own, separate event.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows? There could be some sort of
There
connection.
might be something. You
Yeah.
grab a straws,
Right.
when you're
Right.
in there. So,
Right.
but we'll have to see.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Nicole. Oop, there we go. And she is a political consultant, originally from St. Louis, Missouri. But of course, this being Big Brother, they didn't get her from Missouri. They got her from Maryland. She said that she is going to play like a politician. And she came to play. And she listed off a bunch of pretty recent players over the past couple seasons. So I'm not really sure how much of a longtime fan she is, or if she just saw the recent seasons and that's why those are the people she named, or if they were just not really people she wanted to play like from the previous seasons. But playing like a politician in the way that she was talking about, that really would go according to the rules if you could follow them. You got to take the emotions out or put them in as necessary to make things work to your advantage, play on other people's emotions. You got to scheme and plot, all those things. So that'll be interesting to see how she does.
Yeah, through her interviews, Nicole is kind of the picture perfect rule book from our wide blank lost rules, because of really naming off the way you would want to play. The issue is that when you say that so directly, my worry is that while in theory it sounds like a great plan, in practice it might come off a little inauthentic. We see so many time and time again in Big Brother house that honestly, the connections that happen come through some form of social element. It's the right time, right place, and also the ability to be flexible with it. So I hope Nicole can make sure because that's kind of two-sided thing about politicians, right? You do have that charismatic part, but you also there's a reason why most people dislike politicians.
Yeah.
They don't feel like they're trustworthy.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be ensuring they can have that. But I feel like people always hype these things up in their interviews. They try to say it so it's good sound bit. I'm still pretty high on Nicole from everything they said. They're a smart person, and also she's 30. So while she's kind of in the middle road age-wise between these contestants, I feel like she might be able to touch both bases. I'm going to actually give Nicole an 8.
Wow. Okay. I leaned more on, even though I said all those good things, I leaned more towards what you were saying regarding the the inauthenticity potentially. Plus, she's from St. Louis, so that means she could be a Cardinals fan. So,
I knew it lead in somehow.
Yeah, I'm giving her a 6.
6. Okay.
All right. We go from the political consultant to Red. What can you say about Red? He is from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. He's 37. He said he's not a super fan, but he watched a while back and then started again. So he's a fan. He's in sales, but this is one of those things that he's not mentioning that he's in sales because people think of sales a certain thing. And now Survivor people will remember the whole big deal about, we got to get rid of her. She's a salesperson, which just sounds so silly. But especially, I mean, he does not look like the typical salesman who's going to sell you a used car, or something like that. So he said may or may not. We'll see.
No, I'm pretty sure Red, if he's a salesman, sales consultant, it's like moonshine. And I say that in the kindest way possible. Gatlinburg, Tennessee is literally a baseball throw from my family's home. So we've been there much. And so if anything, I probably know if he works for a company in that area, I probably know. We've been there. He's very a charismatic person. We're seeing him very lively, exciting. I don't think any rules will matter to him, though. I think
Right.
he's going
Yeah.
to play his own game. It could be if he can play a combination of Frenchie's game from last season, or excuse me, 2 seasons ago.
Right.
But maybe stay on the more of the logical side of things, rational decisions. He might have a solid chance, but I mean, from everything we've seen from Red, I don't think there's any rule book that's going to work with him.
Yeah, he's the one who said I referenced earlier, who said his strategy is to develop a strategy as he goes, which is not a strategy.
No.
So what did you say? I'm sorry.
I gave him a 2.
A 2. Okay, I gave him a 3.
3. Okay.
So you're a little harsher grade error on the local there.
He could be a great player. I'm just saying through the rules,
yes.
I don't think he's going to be taking any of the rules. I think he's going to try winning the first HOH. I think he's going to want to try putting a big guy on the block. I think he's going to be wonderful to watch. So I hope he stays.
Yeah. Okay. And then last up, but certainly not least, we have Riley. And so she is a bartender from Nashville. And she is a super fan. She said her family dedicates their summers to the show. And her strategy is to be situationally aware, to adapt to what's happening, don't float. Now, Rob compared her to Kat. And I know you know Kat very well. So what do you think of that?
No, I mean, that's an interesting comparison. I feel, it's kind of one of those things with hindsight. Kat played she was very aware of who she is, what she portrays, and she just took advantage of that in the game, really tried to play it up, the blonde doing this and that. And so with Riley, I don't know exactly if I see specifically that, just because I feel like Riley, I'm trying to give a better comparison. I feel like Riley might play a little bit more similarly to the Alyssa from the side of playing somebody, being a duo with somebody, both Alyssas from this recent season and the season before then. Being from Maine, they have a Northeast connection, but being in Nashville, it's a fun city. I think people are going to want to talk to her a lot because she is a bartender. Obviously, she looks great. And it's a party city. So if she's a super fan mixed with all that, I'm hoping that she can kind of play to that to the side. No, she shouldn't take a strong, stance on things. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if she's pulled into that HOH room first week where like, hey, let's make a duo.
Yeah. Okay. What do you? So I'm giving her a 7.
A 7. Okay. I think that's honestly where I fall to a 7. I think I want to see more there, but I think she'll stick by the rules, and she has a lot going for her that I don't think we're going to have to see her be too flexible in the beginning portion of the game. I think she's going to be able to play a good coast until it gets tough.
Okay. All right. So there we have them. So now let's talk about winner picks. So I am debating between Corey and Cameron.
Corey and Cameron. Yes. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I really like Riley and Jag, and obviously Jared as well. So now I've named like half the cast. Now, but Corey and Cameron, maybe because, those 2 seasons that I binged, they were 14 and 17. And so that means that Ian and Steve were the winners of those 2 seasons. And so my brain is in a certain mode when it comes to the type of winner. That would lead me to say Corey. But I do think that Cameron's age will give him a boost in this cast that skews older. And as you had said you worried about with Corey, the part about, pretending to be helpless portion. I just worry that may not work out so great for him. So I am going to pick Cameron as my winner prediction.
And you all might be watching and saying, why is Ovi shaking his head during this whole time? I was worried as we talked you would pick Cameron because Cameron was supposed to be my winner pick. And when we both gave him that 8, I knew something was wrong before. So because again, we don't talk about anything specifically about Big Brother until we're alive here, David and I. So I initially thought before we talked about anything, McCole was going to be his winner pick. And I was really hoping because Cameron was I agree with everything you said. I really do think that, and I think Corey could be a big surprise. And if he did it, it wouldn't be as much of a surprise. I think it's just a hurdle we know that he has to jump over. And I see Cameron as kind of the older version of Corey,
Yes.
with a little bit, like you said, life experience. And, he's 34 versus 21. It doesn't sound crazy, but that's 13 years, difference right there. That's, what is that? That's almost 3/4 of Corey's life right there. So Cameron has so much more in the beginning stages to lean back on. But I'm not going to be the person who picks the same person.
I mean,
no, I'm not.
It's happened. It's happened.
Because when I'm right, I want to be able to say, David, you weren't right either.
That's right. That's right.
So I will tell you my other 3 people I was juggling to. So I had, excuse me, let me pick it up here. I had Cameron, I had Nicole, and I had Matt, actually.
Okay.
So these were my 3 people that I felt that could do really well. And so I'm taking out, for all the reasons, Cameron, you've heard that. I think Matt could surprise us a lot from both their athleticism, and I just feel like he's going to be somebody people are going to not revolve around, but want to be included in things. And if they're a smart person, because it seems like the way the house is built, I don't feel like he's going to have to take a leadership role. I'm hoping that he can kind of be the best man. He can be like, he can play a Hayden through it. With Nicole, I think they have a really strong potential, but I'm wondering how much of a coalition they can build and how authentic it can be too. So because of that, I'm going to go with Matt as my winner pick.
Okay.
But Matt and Nicole is there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see any of these 3 go far, or we're completely wrong. And Bowie Jane is at the end with Red Utley. It could happen. So my winner pick is Matt.
All right. I would not have predicted that prediction.
I could be wrong. We'll see.
Yeah. Now, we have to go the opposite direction, looking at who might be first out. As I mentioned before, I hope it's not Corey, because that would just be terrible for the family. But my initial thought was Felicia. But Robin Taryn pointed out that once you reach a certain age, you kind of move into a different category. And I think that's true of her. Kind of like you said, the parent category rather than, so now I feel like it could be Airhead or fake Airhead Luke.
Okay, interesting. Luke and who?
Well, Luke is the first I was looking at Felicia before that.
Okay.
In addition,
gotcha.
but yeah.
Yes. Interesting. Okay. So Felicia and Luke, those are the 2 people.
Well, Luke is the one I'm picking as the first to go.
First to go. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think we're going to see one of the girls get nominated on here, and I think because of that, I am actually worried about. I'm scrolling through here. I want to give you a surprising answer. All right.
Okay.
But I think America might be somebody we could see on the block and go home week 1.
Wow.
And the reason why is I think we're going to get a coalition. I'm seeing who's going to win HOH. This is what I'm saying. I think we're going to see those who win HOH. I think it's going to be the men. I could be completely wrong. Okay. They're going to make a coalition of men. They're not going to put them out there. So that puts the people who you have out is probably the youngest people and the oldest people. You have Corey on the outs potentially, unless he can ingratiate himself in there. And then you have Felicia there. I don't think Luke's going to be in trouble at all week 1. I think Luke is going to be actually the person pushing it. So maybe if Felicia is able to be, she might be on the block. It keeps there, but they put one of the girls there. And I'm worried about America, who's going to probably be saying a few lies to, bring things there down, that she might just underplay too much. So I'm worried about America, and I'm going to put the other person I'm actually worried about. I think it's going to be between America and Kirsten, one of those two people.
Okay.
It'll be a surprising, weird thing, but I think one of those two people will be going.
So do you think America will be saved by America's vote?
I've seen crazier things, and I know that the execs are just like salivating of just being able to do that. Just have that little thing.
Yeah. Plus, there's the whole blue-red America political consultant.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some weird names, weird things going on there. So, could be coincidence. Who knows?
We'll have to see.
Yeah. Now, moving away from the players, or sort of with the player, it's a transition, I guess. I noticed that one of the questions producers apparently asked each player for their videos was how great Julie Chen Moonves is, which I think is wrong on a number of different levels. One, she's not. Two, why? I mean, you're using this as a promo for your host. It's supposed to be about the players. And also, it's kind of unfair since the players were probably fearing for their chance of actually being on the show. Like Corey, for example, talked about how Julie has incisive questions for people who get voted out. Considering, as we said, how self-aware Corey is, I have to think that he was absolutely giving them the BS he knew they wanted to hear. I do not believe for a moment that Corey thinks Julie Chen Moonves asks incisive questions.
Once upon a time, maybe, but
yeah. So maybe, we talked about Blue being an apparent replacement. Maybe that's why she's in and whoever she replaced is out because that person didn't say enough good things about Julie.
I think it's so funny. There's never a world that I ever thought I would be getting a call back of the show, and it's that's totally fun. But I also know that David is also doesn't help the case. Because I also agree with every segment against Julie Chen Moonves. It's just they've ingratiated themselves so much into the show and made it so about their own personal feelings and biases. But the questions are so biased against certain players regarding how they might feel about one thing she disagrees with or not. Regardless of that, it was funny. Bad promo. At this point, it's kind of laughable,
Yeah. And that leads to, normally we do this at the top of each week, but this will be the first installment of our regular feature. Julie Chen Moonves is wrong about blank. I did not expect to have to do this in the preseason, but she gave us several things to cover here already. In the 25th anniversary special, she said that if there were an Emmy for reality TV casting, Big Brother would win it over and over. Well, here's the first thing. There is an Emmy for reality TV casting. There has been since 2017. Like, how do you say that as the most brilliant host ever, according to what the players said? And two, how does no fact checker catch that? Like, seriously, it's one of those things that as soon as it hit the airwaves, people were like, there is one. It's not like I was the only one who noticed that. Lots of people noticed that. And then beyond that, it is delusional to believe that Big Brother would win year after year after year. This is one of the best, apparently, casts in a while. I mean, the past few years have had some good casts, but even last year, when you had a great winner, the cast as a whole was not winning any Emmys.
No.
For your season, they literally had to hide the winner in the 24 season retrospective promo they did. They just showed confetti and wouldn't show his face.
They literally cast people who are related to each other, and they didn't even, this whole casting process. And that's the thing is, I don't even give as much crap to the casting folks. It's the execs who sign off on this. They know all this. They check it. They have to give the ultimate because they get a list of 50 people in front of them, and they slowly back them. And they're the ones doing it. Julie Chen Moonves is part of the process half the time. So it's just laughable.
Is she?
I mean, by name, check
Yeah.
mark, like
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's just laughable that if any show would get the cat, like we end the seasons regardless of how people we like
Mhm.
at the end of it. There's more people we dislike
Yeah.
after, like once it's done. We're like, that's
Yeah.
not a good human being.
Right.
This show, if anything, brings out the worst human beings we find.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, in a few other things, these are, I don't know, are they objectively, subjectively wrong, whatever. In an interview she did for Variety, she claimed that she's too critical of her own hosting. And then both there and in the special, she said she watches the live feeds. All of the things that I just said are BS. We know she doesn't watch the live feeds. Maybe at some point in the far past she did. And really, she's too critical of her own hosting. Then she's not critical of the right things.
Yeah, I think
So
we've realized she's phoning it in,
yeah,
and if anything, I'd actually respect that a little bit more if she was just more transparent about it. She doesn't have to love the show. She doesn't have to love what she does. It's a job. We don't have to all love our jobs. Most people really don't. That's perfectly fine. But it's this idea that she feigns that she is so into the show, but year in
yeah,
year out, she won't make an active decision to change it to a positive way.
right, right. All right. So with that, we reach the end of our preview podcast. So let's figure out where people can contact us. Ovi, where can we find you on social media? With the hint, at least for Twitter, being in your name tag.
My favorite. It's actually the Ovi Kabir. Unfortunately, unlike
Oh,
Elon, I'm not able to steal other people's handles. So Ovi Kabir has been taken for the last 12 years. So
oh,
it's
well then
the
why?
Ovi
Okay,
Kabir.
well hold on. Then why didn't we do that? Why did we put an @ sign at?
Oh, we could put is the at the Ovi Kabir, but you can find
Yes,
at
there we go.
Ovi Kabir for Instagram. So it's
Oh, okay.
either or. It's perfectly fine. We talk about Big Brother. This season I will be covering each of the episodes slowly on there, where it's like here's a recap on there, and then we'll be leading into why blank lost. So
Yeah.
it'll be a fun little thing.
Okay. Well, now we've got your Twitter handle up there for right now. And so,
What
all
can
right.
we
Well,
find you, David?
I am everywhere. You can. The easiest way to find me is on my link
Ooh.
tree, which is a link tree / David Bloomberg with a dot before the EE. So it's linkter.ee. Why they did it that way, I don't know, but they did. Also, as you can see when you scroll down here, I am generally at David Bloomberg on the text-based social media platforms like Twitter and Blue Sky. And I'm at David Bloomberg TV on the video locations like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. But since Threads uses the Instagram name, I'm at David Bloomberg TV there as well. So that ruined my whole plan. Thanks, Threads. But again, yes, the link tree / David Bloomberg with the dot before the EE. Now, as far as the videos that I post, even during the downtime since Survivor, I've been posting at least one per day, often 2 or 3. These include current shows like Claim to Fame or Stars on Mars, plus flashbacks to older Survivor or Big Brother seasons that had something interesting or educational that came out of them. So you'll see clips and scenes there. And of course, with Big Brother 25 starting soon, I will have plenty of videos coming from there. Additionally, although I haven't been doing much podcasting lately, I was recently on the You Thought You Knew podcast with Kevin and Nigel for the Jenna Lewis. You Thought You Knew Jenna Lewis. The question that was raised was Jenna Lewis the perfect heel turn from the original Survivor to All Stars? So we discussed that. I was also on the Tradar podcast, which was wrapped up the finale of the Traders Australia, which it ended a while ago, but it took a little while to catch up. And just in time for season 2 of the Traders Australia, which begins in a couple weeks. I've also been on the Truth Unrestricted podcast with Spencer Watson to discuss some usually very non-reality TV topics that deal more with science and the way people think and psychology and things like that. So don't look for Truth Unrestricted and be like, hey, this has nothing to do with Survivor. No, it probably doesn't. So beyond that, I want to encourage everyone to check out the RHAP patron program as Big Brother starts here, and that's at robhaswebsite.com/patron. You can get access to all the special podcasts that are put out just for patrons, plus the Facebook groups and Discord. You can support shows like ours and everything on the network by becoming a patron, again, at robhaswebsite.com/patron. And once you get to the Facebook groups, if you join there, make sure to say hello. Also, make sure you're subscribed to all of the reality TV RHAP-Ups podcast by going to robhaswebsite.com/RHAP-Ups feed. And then you can just select your podcast service of choice. Most of the Big Brother content is on the RHAP-Ups. Obviously, the episode recaps are on, RHAP. But Taryn's live feeds, other podcasts, the different roundtables, the Stock Watch, our podcast, all the other ones, they are on here on RHAP-Ups. And so, as well as a number of other podcasts that are, other reality TV or wrestling or crime shows, you name it, make sure you're on the RHAP-Ups. Other than that, we want to thank Scott St. Pierre and the whole RHAP and Reality TV RHAP-Ups behind-the-scenes team for all the work they do in editing and posting and promoting and everything else that goes on. Do you have anything else before we head out?
Well, I just want to say how much fun this was. I cannot wait to do this rest of the Big Brother 25 season with you. David becomes my best friend. He's already one of my great friends, but for the next 100 days, he becomes my best friend. Hannah gets very jealous about that because every Friday night is reserved for him. I tell her that. But I wanted to say thank you to all the viewers for watching us in and out. Please support the podcast as well as all the other RHAP podcasts out there. Let us know in the comments, too. What do you think about this cast? Who is your winner pick? And who do you disagree with us about what our ratings are in regards to why blank lost rules? Because we want to hear it. So can't wait to talk to you guys soon. And next time you'll see us will be why somebody went home, and we'll talk about that.
Yep. Thank you, of course, Ovi, for joining me once again. And we will be talking in, well, I guess it'll be probably about 10 days, 11 days, something like that. Haven't done the math.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it'll fly by very quickly, but we will see you then. Bye.
It will. Take care.